We didn't realize we were summoning the beast to dinner." The words still echoed through the control room, making several eyes flicker nervously toward the transmission console. The signal had come from the Rimward sector, a region of space infamous for its hostility toward all forms of life. Surviving there meant you were either incredibly fortunate or dangerously skilled, or as humans might put it, both. The distress call had been straightforward, a desperate plea from a small coalition of frontier species whose planets were collapsing under the relentless attack of a merciless foe, the Gar Dominion. This race of insectoid warriors was known for their brutality, cutting through the frontier like a scythe through grain. Worlds fell, and survivors fled to the stars, hoping for a response. When the distress signal reached the galaxy, no one anticipated a reply from humanity. After all, they were newcomers on the galactic scene, their reputation still in the making, a reputation that suggested unpredictability and occasional overconfidence. They were known more for their ambition than their proven abilities, or so other species thought. "Are we certain it's them?" asked Commander Roderick, a grizzled veteran with 100 battles to his name, leaning over the console and tapping his fingers nervously against the metal surface. His experience told him this was a perilous situation, but the possibility that humans had responded was a variable he hadn't prepared for. "Yes, sir," replied Lieutenant Frey, whose furred arms were trembling as he struggled to maintain his composure. His large, round eyes darted to the holographic display, which flickered with symbols representing the incoming human fleet. "Their ships are broadcasting human alliance codes. They're real, and they're here." Roderick exhaled slowly, his mind racing. He had never seen a human ship in person, let alone an entire fleet. Rumors about their capabilities were rampant. Some said they were fearless. Others claimed they were reckless. All Roderick knew was that they were unpredictable. If they were as dangerous as some stories suggested, the Gar Dominion might be facing more than they bargained for. "Open a channel," Roderick ordered, straightening up. "Let's see what they have to say." The communication line hummed to life, and moments later, the holographic image of a human appeared. He was tall with close-cropped hair and an unervingly calm demeanor considering the situation. "This is Captain Leo Carter of the Earth Alliance Navy," the human said, his voice steady and unwavering. "We received your distress signal. We're here to assist." Roderick's eyes narrowed as he studied the human's face. There was something disconcerting about his calmness, as though he was already prepared for the worst. But there was also a hint of something else, something that made the hairs on Roderick's neck stand on end. "Captain Carter," Roderick began cautiously, "we appreciate your help. But how do you intend to handle the Gar? They've decimated entire fleets, and their ground forces are unstoppable." Carter finished the question for him. "We're aware. We've studied their tactics and their biology. They are formidable, no doubt." Frey's ears twitched in confusion. "Then how do you plan to—" "By giving them exactly what they want," Carter interrupted with a small, almost predatory smile forming on his lips. Roderick exchanged a puzzled glance with Frey. "What do you mean by that?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Let's just say," Carter replied, leaning forward slightly, "we're very good at playing to our enemies' expectations." "The Gar think they're the predators in this fight," Carter continued. "We're here to show them what it's like to be prey." A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications of Carter's words sunk in. The idea of the Gar being outmaneuvered, outwitted, and possibly even outmatched by the humans was hard to grasp. For so long, the Gar had been the apex predators in this sector, their reign of terror unchallenged. But now, with the humans involved, something was shifting, a balance of power tilting in an unexpected direction. "What do you need from us?" Roderick asked, realizing that if this plan was to succeed, full cooperation would be required. "Just stay out of our way," Carter replied, his voice carrying an edge of finality. "We'll handle the rest." The communication line cut off, and the holographic display returned to the tactical map. The human fleet, now in attack formation, began to spread out, their ships maneuvering with precision and purpose. Roderick watched in silence, his mind racing with thoughts of what was about to unfold. He had fought countless battles and faced innumerable enemies, but this was different. The humans were different, unpredictable, dangerous, and in their own way, terrifying. But perhaps that was exactly what was needed. As the first wave of human ships engaged the Gar forces, Roderick couldn't shake the feeling that they had unleashed something far more dangerous than they had ever anticipated. The Gar were about to learn a harsh lesson, a lesson that had been long coming. The monsters had answered their call for help, and now there was no turning back. The Gar Dominion had never encountered anything like the human fleet before. Their initial formations, tested and perfected over countless cycles of warfare, crumbled under the relentless precision of the Earth Alliance ships. What was supposed to be another easy conquest had turned into a chaotic struggle for survival. From the command center, Roderick watched the battle unfold, his eyes wide with a mix of disbelief and grudging respect. The human ships moved with a level of coordination that bordered on eerie, each vessel acting as if it were part of a larger organism, responding to threats with a fluidity that seemed almost unnatural. Their weapons were compact, efficient, and devastating, cutting through Gar armor with terrifying ease. "They're tearing them apart," Frey muttered, his voice a low whisper as he leaned closer to the holographic display. "How is this even possible? The Gar have never been outmatched like this." Roderick didn't respond. He was too focused on the tactical readouts, where the Gar fleet's numbers were dwindling at an alarming rate. It wasn't just that the humans were winning, it was the way they were winning. They weren't just defeating the Gar. They were dismantling them piece by piece with a cold, calculated efficiency that left no room for doubt. This wasn't a battle. It was an extermination. As another Gar ship exploded into a cloud of debris, Roderick felt a strange sensation creeping over him. It wasn't fear. He had faced fear countless times in his career. No, this was something else, something far more unsettling. It was the realization that the humans weren't just a wild card. They were the ace in the hole that no one had seen coming. "Commander," Frey's voice trembled slightly. "If they keep this up, the Gar won't just be defeated. They'll be annihilated. There won't be anything left of them." Roderick finally tore his eyes away from the display to look at his lieutenant. "Isn't that what we wanted?" he asked, though even as he spoke, he knew the answer wasn't simple. "We wanted them stopped," Frey replied, his eyes still fixed on the display. "But this is something else. The Gar are vicious, yes, but they've also been part of the balance out here. If they're wiped out completely, who knows what could take their place?" Roderick couldn't argue with that logic. The Rimward sector had always been a delicate power balance, with the Gar playing the role of apex predators. Their removal would create a vacuum that could easily be filled by something worse, or, as he was beginning to suspect, by the humans themselves. "Open a channel to Captain Carter," Roderick ordered, his voice firm. He needed to understand the humans' true intentions, and there was only one way to do that. The communication line hummed to life again, and within moments, the calm, unflinching face of Captain Carter reappeared. "Commander Roderick," Carter greeted him, his tone as neutral as before. "I trust you're satisfied with our progress?" Roderick hesitated before responding. "Your progress is undeniable, Captain, but I have to ask, what exactly is your endgame here? Are you planning to completely eradicate the Gar?" Carter didn't answer immediately. Instead, he regarded Roderick with an intensity that made the commander feel as though he were being scrutinized. Finally, Carter spoke. "The Gar are a threat to every species in this sector. You called for help, and we're providing it. But we don't do things halfway, Commander. If we're going to protect you, we need to ensure the threat is neutralized permanently." "And by neutralize, you mean?" "I mean that we intend to remove the Gar from the equation," Carter said, his tone matter-of-fact, as if discussing routine maintenance. "Their existence is incompatible with the safety and stability of this region. So yes, we're going to eliminate them." Frey, who had been listening in silence, finally spoke up. "But what happens after that? What if something worse fills the void? Or what if your actions create a new enemy?" Carter's expression didn't change, but there was a slight pause before he responded. "That's a possibility we've considered. But history has shown that decisive action often prevents greater conflicts down the line. We're not interested in temporary solutions. We're interested in creating lasting peace." Roderick couldn't help but notice the way Carter phrased that last sentence. It wasn't about preserving peace. It was about creating it, which implied that the humans had their own vision of what that peace would look like, a vision that might not align with everyone else's. And what happens to us? Roderick asked, his voice quieter now, though no less serious. Once the Gar are gone, what role do you see us playing in this new piece of yours? Carter's gaze didn't waver. That depends on you, Commander. We're here to help, but we won't impose our will on anyone. However, we do believe that cooperation is the key to a stable future. The Earth Alliance is willing to offer its protection and support to those who are willing to work with us. Roderick's thoughts raced as he tried to parse the implications of Carter's words. Cooperation, protection, support. These were terms that could easily mask something more controlling, something that might come with strings attached. But in the face of the current threat, could they afford to refuse? We'll consider your offer, Captain, Roderick said finally, choosing his words carefully. For now, let's focus on dealing with the immediate threat. Agreed, Carter replied, a small, inscrutable smile appearing on his lips. We'll be in touch. The communication line went dead, leaving Roderick and Frey alone with their thoughts. The battle was still raging outside, but the real conflict, the one that would determine the future of the sector, was only just beginning. Frey broke the silence first, his voice low and uncertain. What are we going to do, Commander? Roderick took a deep breath, his mind racing. The humans had saved them, but they had also changed the rules of the game. Accepting their help meant entering into a partnership that would likely redefine their place in the galaxy. Refusing could mean facing the future alone, a future made more dangerous by the power vacuum left by the Gar's defeat. We'll discuss it with the Council, Roderick said, though his voice lacked the certainty he wished he could project. But I think we both know there's only one real option. Frey nodded slowly, the weight of the situation pressing down on him as well. And what happens if we agree? Then we become part of something bigger than ourselves, Roderick replied, his gaze distant. Something that could either protect us or consume us. As Roderick stared at the now quiet tactical display, he realized this was the new reality. The humans had answered their call for help, but they hadn't come as mere saviors. They had come as harbingers of change. Change that would shape the future of this sector for generations to come. And as unsettling as it was, Roderick knew they would have to navigate this new relationship carefully. The humans had shown them what they were capable of, and now it was up to Roderick and his people to decide how they would coexist with this newfound power for better or worse. They had invited the beasts to dinner, and now they had to figure out how to live with them. The council chamber was abuzz with voices, a cacophony of concern and curiosity. The room, a grand expanse of polished metal and glass, held the representatives of the various frontier species that had come together in a rare moment of unity. Their faces, both familiar and alien, were a blend of anxiety and anticipation as they awaited the arrival of Commander Roderick and Lieutenant Frey. Roderick entered the chamber, flanked by Frey, his steps echoing off the high walls. The council members fell silent, their eyes turning toward the front as Roderick took his place at the central podium. His gaze swept over the assembly, taking in the array of species, some with scales, others with fur, and still others whose forms defied conventional biology. They all shared one thing in common. They were now faced with an unprecedented choice. Commander Roderick, Lieutenant Frey, began Counselor Threx, a reptilian diplomat with a reputation for being both shrewd and fair. We've all been following the developments closely. The Earth Alliance has certainly made an impression. What is your assessment of the situation? Roderick took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth, the moment where the future of their world, and possibly the galaxy, would be decided. The Earth Alliance has engaged the Gar Dominion with a level of efficiency and precision that is both remarkable and troubling. They have effectively dismantled the Gar fleet and are on the verge of achieving total victory. A murmur of surprise and awe rippled through the chamber. The Gar had been a formidable enemy, their dominance in the Rimward sector nearly unquestioned. To hear that they were being defeated so decisively was astonishing. Are they to be completely eradicated? Counselor Saran, a scholar from the Epsilon Fringe, asked with a hint of concern. What does that mean for us? For the sector? Roderick nodded gravely. Yes, it seems that the Earth Alliance is committed to removing the Gar threat entirely. They have made it clear that their goal is to ensure the stability of this region by any means necessary. A ripple of unease spread through the council. The Gar's defeat meant the end of one form of tyranny, but it also created a vacuum that was sure to be filled. The question was by whom or what, and whether it would be better or worse. Frey stepped forward, his fur bristling with tension. The Earth Alliance has offered us their protection and support in the aftermath. They've indicated that they're willing to form an alliance with us, but their terms will likely come with strings attached. They're looking for cooperation, not subservience, but the future of our independence is at stake. Counselor Threx raised a clawed hand. And what of the Gar? Are there any survivors? Any diplomatic channels we might use to negotiate terms or seek leniency? Roderick shook his head. The Gar are not interested in diplomacy at this stage. The Earth Alliance's approach is decisive, and they have made it clear that they see the Gar as an existential threat to the stability of the sector. They have the means and the will to ensure that threat is completely eliminated. The room fell silent again, the weight of Roderick's words settling over the assembled representatives. The Gar's reign had been harsh, but it had also been a constant, an unchanging element of their political landscape. Now, with their imminent eradication, everything was in flux. "We have a difficult decision ahead," Counselor Saran said finally, breaking the silence. "We must weigh the benefits of an alliance with the Earth Alliance against the potential risks of their dominance. It is clear that their assistance comes at a cost." Roderick nodded. "Indeed. We must also consider the ramifications of rejecting their offer. The Gar's defeat creates a power vacuum that could attract new threats, or worse, leave us vulnerable to other aggressive forces." Counselor Threx leaned forward, his eyes glinting with determination. "We must act with both caution and foresight. We need to understand the terms of any potential alliance fully and assess how it will impact our sovereignty and security." Frey nodded in agreement. "We'll need to negotiate carefully. The Earth Alliance may offer protection, but we must ensure that their influence does not come at the cost of our autonomy." The council members began to murmur among themselves, their discussions filled with speculation and concern. As the debate continued, Roderick found himself lost in thought, reflecting on the conversations he'd had with Captain Carter. The human's calm, almost detached demeanor was unsettling, and the more he considered their situation, the more he realized how little he truly understood about their new allies. As the session wound down, the council made a decision. They would send a delegation to the Earth Alliance to negotiate terms and establish a formal dialogue. Roderick would lead this mission, tasked with ensuring that any agreement reached was both beneficial and fair. "We will meet with Captain Carter and his superiors," Threx announced, addressing the council. "Our objective is to secure a treaty that guarantees our protection while preserving our independence. We must be vigilant and ensure that the Earth Alliance's terms align with our needs and values." The council members nodded in agreement, their resolve solidifying. The next steps would be critical in determining their future, and the negotiation with the Earth Alliance would set the course for the sector's destiny. As the council adjourned, Roderick and Frey prepared for their journey. The diplomatic mission would be delicate, requiring both diplomacy and strategy. They had to ensure that their people's interests were protected while navigating the complex dynamics of their new relationship with the Earth Alliance. In the quiet of the council chamber, as the representatives dispersed and the room slowly emptied, Roderick took a moment to reflect on the gravity of their situation. The Gar Dominion's defeat was a victory, but it was a victory that had introduced a new set of challenges. The future was uncertain, and the choices they made now would determine whether the sector would prosper or falter. As he and Frey left the chamber, Roderick knew that the coming days would test their resolve and their ability to adapt. They had invited the beasts to dinner, and now they had to face the consequences. The Earth Alliance was a powerful ally, but their presence brought with it a series of questions and concerns that would need to be addressed. The galaxy was changing, and with it, the balance of power. How they navigated this new reality would define not only their survival, but their future as a collective of species struggling to find their place in a universe that was rapidly evolving.